Now we go and dive a little bit deeper into understanding our case study, Bancor. So what Bancor is, the objectives, the kind of constraints, the role it plays in the DeFi movement, and how the token design comes into play with Bancor. So what's Bancor? Bancor's ecosystem. We call it Bancor's ecosystem, Bancor network, Bancor protocol, basically the ecosystem that Bancor has. It's like Facebook ecosystem. You have WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and it just continues to grow. It's just stuff that's linked to Facebook in the end. So Bancor ecosystem is the entire ecosystem that at the end links to Bancor. So what is that? It's a solution to illiquid tokens. Illiquid tokens are tokens that's not liquid. That means it's very difficult to change these tokens into cash. And how does it do that? It provides continuous liquidity, and it's governed by algorithm in a smart contract. So how does this work? How does Bancor work? It has a smart contract, it has some math, it has a common network token. Common network token is the solution to the liquidity problem. And why? Why? Because we want to provide continuous liquidity for tokens with low demand. When the token has very low demand, it's very difficult to find someone who wants to buy it from you or wants to sell it. And so that's where the liquidity problem exists, and we can solve that by having a common network token. So before we go into a little bit more about Bancor, the kind of tokens are there, let's understand the objectives of Bancor. The objective it's simple. It's to be the solution to liquidity. And how do they be the solution? They use an automatic market maker. Automatic market maker. A market maker is a person who it's like a thing or a person, an entity that will always buy and sell as long as you want to sell or buy. If you want to buy, he's there to sell. If you want to sell, he's there to buy. So that's a market maker. And market makers are important because they provide liquidity. If you want to buy, he sells. If you want to sell, he buys. So they provide liquidity, right? But the difference here is that it's an automatic market maker. That means you don't need a person, you don't need to make sure that someone is out there constantly buying and selling, but this is automated, and the entity buying and selling it is a smart contract, and it's an automated system. We're going to talk about that later. And what is the purpose? Why do we want to do that? Because we want to give liquidity to tokens, especially privately issued tokens. And there are two types of tokens that have liquidity problems. The first one, which is pretty obvious, is where the token is new. You don't have network effects, you don't have people demanding your tokens, your token is basically new. It's quite difficult to make it liquid. You're also not hosting on exchanges, and then, because even if you're hosting on exchanges, no one wants to buy your tokens because it's so new. No one knows about it, no one cares about it. So this is a solution to that. And the other one is when the ecosystem is very, very niche, like super niche. Only a few people around the world are using and trading them. You don't want to list it on exchanges because the demand is very low and then the fees are probably going to be quite high. So you use Bancor. Bancor is essentially a decentralized exchange where that's governed by an automatic market maker to provide liquidity between tokens. So basically, it's just making sure that your tokens can become a different token can become another token very easily. And this another token can be something like ETH, and then you can trade it on other outside exchanges for cash. It's a lot more liquid. So what's the problem? What's the problem with liquidity? Why do we keep talking about that? Why do we even need to solve it? So there are three problems. The first one is the double coincidence of wants. If you think about it, you can only sell something if someone wants to buy it from you. Try sell flowers on Valentine's Day. Lots of people want to buy it, so you can sell it. Sell skeletons, sell random Halloween stuff in March. No one wants to buy it because no one is demanding it. But if you want to buy Christmas log cake in June, you can't buy it because no one is selling it. So the whole problem with double coincidence of ones is that you need someone who's willing to buy and someone who's willing to sell at the same time. If your time is mismatched, you want to buy Christmas log cake in June, or you want to sell Halloween stuff in April, there is no double coincidence of one. There is no one buying or selling or demanding or supplying at that time. So this is where liquidity is a problem, because you want to buy or you want to sell, and there is no way for you to exchange the item for money, or to exchange money for the item. So that's a problem, double coincidence of one. The other one is reliability of exchange. So yeah, you're saying that, okay, there are exchanges in places, there are exchanges out there anyway, and then you can just get tokens to exchange. But the thing is, if I have Lisa tokens and no one's demanding Lisa tokens, no one's trading Lisa tokens, even if Lisa tokens are on the exchange, no one is getting it, then that's a problem, right? Maybe one day someone will buy one day because it's my birthday, and someone buys 100 Lisa tokens, and for the rest of the year, no one buys Lisa tokens. Then it's a very volatile thing. It's not reliable. You can't assume that in 1 month it's increased by 100 tokens, and then the rest of the month we can assume that it's always going to be increasing by 100 tokens. No, it doesn't work like that. So exchanges, yes, they exist, they provide liquidity, but they're not reliable because some tokens just don't have demand. And even if you put it on exchanges, you can't trade because no one is demanding it. So that's a problem. And lastly, it's the long tail problem. Long tail problem is basically when we have a graph. We have a graph that looks like this. So you see here, it has a very long tail, and that's because that's where you have a lot of tokens in the area. What does it mean? So here, when there's very high, very steep curve, this is like the top 10 tokens that is being traded. Okay, and they make up 99% of the transaction volume. So yeah, exchanges exist, but people are only trading the top 10 tokens. But the problem or the issue is that you have a long tail, because now we make privately this area, we make privately issued tokens very easy to access, very easy to create, very easy to launch. So now we have a very long tail of small individual privately issued tokens that nobody trades, nobody cares about, but it's there. And this is the kind of function that we see on exchanges, where the top 10% is trading at top 10 tokens are being traded so much, and the rest of the tokens, which are the 99% of the other tokens, are not traded at all. So that's a long tail problem. It's because it's very cheap, it's easy to launch your privately issued tokens, so everyone is launching that, but no one's trading them. So if no one's trading them, then you have problems with liquidity. And what's the solution? There are two solutions to that. As I mentioned just now before, you have the manual market maker and the automated market maker. The manual market maker is that the market maker will always buy and sell financial products. This solves the liquidity issue. They're usually, large financial institutions, can be large banks or large hedge funds or whatever, because they have a lot of money sitting in the bank, and they can always be buying and selling. Then because they're buying a lot and selling a lot, and always being there to buy and sell, so they will charge the spread. So they will charge the difference in the prices when they buy and sell. And they also because they have a big capital, they can hold bigger risk. They can be buying more products when people are selling, and then suddenly when people buy, they have reserves to be selling. So that's manual market maker. Now, the other solution is automated market maker. Why? Firstly, it's decentralization. So we want to create. We don't want a central authority, central institution to be handling this. We want this to be decentralized. So we do it in two ways. The first one is using a common token. So the common token, we create decentralized liquidity using a common token, and this common token has liquidity mechanism built into it, which is your token bonding curve. We're going to talk about that later. And then the prices will always be bought and sold and determined algorithmically. The other way that is decentralized that we'll talk about later is that people, instead of a big institution holding with a lot of capital reserve or a lot of reserve to be trading, now people can own parts of this reserve. So it's decentralized. So let's talk a little bit more about the tokens available in Bancor. Right now there are three main tokens. You've got the liquid token, the relay token, and reserve tokens. There are a lot of names to these tokens, but let's just stick to liquid token, relay token, and reserve token. Liquid token is the token that allows liquidity, hence it's called liquid token. This will be, for example, BTN is Bancor Network Token, so it's the native token of Bancor. It provides liquidity, instant convertibility, and access to any token in the network. It's backed by a single reserve, which is ETH. Then we have relay token. Relay token is a mix of 50% reserve token, 50% BNT. And that would be something like DAI BNT. So relay token exists because relay tokens are for staking. And when you stake, you increase the reserves of the pool, the reserve pool. And why will people stake? Because every time someone transacts, they will pay transaction fees, and when you stake, you can get part of the transaction fee. So relay token represents a proportion of the reserve pool. The reserve pool is backed 50% by BNT and 50% by reserve tokens. Now, what's reserve tokens then? Reserve tokens are the token that wants to join the ecosystem and the token that wants to be liquid. And because Bancor works on Ethereum and EOS, so this reserve token can be ERC20 or it can be EOS based. And reserve token can be stuff like DAI, BAT, EOS, Dragon, which is EOS based, or anything that is ERC20 or EOS based. So this is not a native Bancor token. This is a token that you want to make it liquid. So these are three different tokens. Once again, liquid token is the token that provides liquidity. We'll talk about that later. Relay token is the token the tokens where you can stake in the reserve pool. They represent a proportion of the reserve pool. And reserve token is the token itself that you want it to be liquid. Now, there are a few features of Bancor. I will not go into them, but these are all talked about in details in the token economics report or token economics paper of Bancor, which you will find at the end of the slides. So we have continuous liquidity. So Bancor always provides liquidity. When you want to exchange for tokens, you can always get it. And that's because we have the liquid token here. So it works in a very simple way. You have a reserve pool, right? Like a bucket. And then you have in the bucket you have 50% reserve tokens, DAI, 50% liquid token, BNT. And every pool in Bancor, 50% is actually BNT. So because there is a commonality, I call it like a common denominator, every pool has BNT. So it's very easy for you to trade DAI for EOS. So you buy DAI, you give DAI to the reserve, you get BNT, you go to the EOS BNT reserve, you give BNT, you get EOS. So you can get DAI in exchange for EOS, or you can give DAI and get BNT in exchange for anything else. So it's always liquid, and BNT is in every single pool anyway. So you can always trade and always get liquidity. That's how it works. So that's continuous liquidity. Bancor Relay. So Relay is basically the reserve pool. The reserve pool that has Bancor, BNT, and the reserve reserve tokens. It's linked to relay tokens because relay tokens basically represents proportion of the reserve pool. Bancor relay is just the reserve pool. Liquidity providers are basically the relay token holders. When you stake, you can buy relay tokens and you stake them. So this increases the amount. This increases the size of the reserve pool, and then as the reserve pool becomes bigger, you can provide more liquidity because there's more tokens around to play with. Now, liquidity fee. When we talk about liquidity fee, we're talking about there are two types of fees to consider. So imagine you go to a money changer and you want to exchange British pounds for US dollars. The money changer can earn money in two ways. The first one is he gives you the exchange rate, allows him to earn a little bit. So when you want to change 10 pounds to whatever US dollars, he gives you a rate that's slightly lower than his rate or in the market rate, and he can earn the difference. The other one is he charges you a commission. So the commission will be you change 10 pounds and commission is 0.1% of your 10 pounds. So he charges commission. There are two fees. The first fee is exchange rate fees. The second fee is commission fees. So liquidity fees, we're talking about the commission fees. So you can have commission fees when you are changing in the reserve pool. So the commission fee is usually 0.1 to 0.3% of the amount changed. So that means the reserve pool, let's say the reserve pool is DAI BNT. You want to give DAI to take up BNT, then you will have to pay maybe 0.3% of transaction fees. This transaction fee goes back to the Bancor relay, goes back to the reserve pool. The other fee is the commission fee. The other fee is the difference in exchange rate. So this is where Bancor will not have that. Bancor will always have a fixed exchange rate that is already defined in the formula, and there'll be no difference in exchange rate. The difference in exchange rate, we call it spread, so there's no spread in BNT. And because we are using a token bonding curve, we talked about token bonding curves 2 lessons ago, we make things a lot more predictable, so we can adjust a lot more things. So we can adjust price sensitivity. That means how much price changes when the supply changes, so we can adjust that. We can predict the prices. So I can predict roughly if I exchange 10 BNT to get DAI, roughly how much that will be, or how much DAI will I get based on how much BNT I give, or how much, if I want to give BAT to the system, how much BNT can I get? So it's basically your exchange rate conversion form mechanisms. The formula is not the same. We're going to look at the formula later. And lastly, at the end of the day, this creates a liquidity network. What do I mean by that? So I mentioned it's not just exchanging DAI for BNT, but you can exchange DAI for anything that's in the ecosystem. So we can exchange DAI for some EOS token. We can exchange DAI for, let's say, BAT again, or EOS. DAI for EOS. So give DAI to the reserve pool, you get BNT. You go to the EOS BNT reserve pool, you give BNT, you get DAI. So this happens, instantaneously because it's all executed by smart contracts, and what it feels like is that you give DAI, you get EOS. And this is interesting not only because it allows token and token exchange, but it allows tokens of different blockchain platforms to exchange. And Bancor exists in the DeFi world. DeFi is decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is basically we're looking at the whole financial industry, and we are looking at what are the new business models that can be in place, new business use cases, and or ways to reduce inefficiency. So where does Bancor come in? An important aspect in the financial space is liquidity. When things are liquid, then you can change them for for other assets very quickly, or people are willing to just get the assets, and you can move your asset around, or you can make payments easily, you can sell things easily. So liquidity is very important, and this is where Bancor comes in. Bancor provides liquidity. So Bancor's role in DeFi is in two ways. The first one is liquidity conversion, and second one is in community staking. Liquidity conversion, we look at liquid tokens, and community staking, we look at relay tokens. For liquidity conversion, Bancor is the liquidity solution. So it allows conversion between in EOS, POA network, in Ethereum blockchain network as well. So you can convert between blockchains, you can convert between different tokens very easily, almost instantly. So that's the liquidity conversion. How does community staking come in? This is where I talked a little bit just now, where market makers are centralized right now because the reserve required is very big, and only very few financial institutions have that kind of very deep pockets to always be buying and selling products or buying and selling financial assets. Now the community can own part of this reserve. So instead of a central authority being the deep pockets and having the reserve pool, now people can own part of the reserve pool, and people can contribute to part of the reserve pool by buying relay tokens. And what's the incentive for that? Because they get to earn transaction fees when they are staking. So Bancor is in the DeFi space in two ways. One is to provide liquidity with BNT tokens, and one is to gain profits or earn a little bit through relay tokens in community staking. So that's the general gist of Bancor.